So if you leave out the banks, and financials have a specific issue of base effects, lower provisioning and so on. In fact, in our coverage universe, we are looking at a 14% decline YOY. Now this of course depends upon which stocks you're covering and so on, so it might matter. But the sentiment we'd echo that across the board, it's either down or decelerating in a way. And therefore this quarter is not going to be the redemption for markets if you're expecting any sort of green shoots in numbers. So this quarter and possibly next quarter is likely to be under some pressure. I think the hope for the consumer pack is really the festival season. And if you can create some sentiment and create some momentum around the pujas and so on, then you might see some earnings surprises, but otherwise it's going to be relatively weak.
You know, the festive season last year was also much anticipated with regards to a possibility of a pickup for the auto sector, which didn't happen then. And, you know, the way we are headed at this point doesn't look like it could be much of a game changer even this time. We've got Maruti sub 6,000, M&M has moved lower, its P multiples much lower than even its 10-year average. You know, would this actually be looked upon as an opportunity, or till you really don't have a clear indicator how things are picking up on ground, you might as well be safe on the side?
So look, the impulse is to suggest, Devina, that look, any weakness becomes an opportunity, especially if you are a medium-term or a patient investor, right? So when it looks like doomsday and people start talking about structural issues with economies or companies, that's when you try and take a counter view in investment. My concern is that yes, look, it's happening. The expectations are falling at the moment, but multiples do not fully reflect that. So even the auto names, some of them are still close to 20 times 2-year forward EPS, and much of the correction in stocks has become EPS has fallen. So either I buy the recovery or I buy the multiple. I don't think in many cases I have either of that available today, right? So yes, if it remains as gloomy as it is and expectations continue to fall, it will become a good opportunity for somebody looking at the long-term investment in India.
Any interesting observations, Sanjay, that your research has been able to throw up with regards to, you know, a trend that you've picked up, or some data point that suggests that, you know, probably there could be some concerns with regards to a further pullback, or there could be a bigger upside to the equity markets?
In fact, we've done a lot of work on this, and the answer to this is that there is no trend. So what we did as a team is we went and read the transcripts of all consumer-facing companies in India, because companies provide a lot of commentary in their results when they talk about what's happening on the ground. They may not print it in numbers, but they at least talk about category-wise, consumption demands, trends, etc. We put it all together, and the conclusion is that there is actually no trend in the consumption weakness. So you cannot say that it is a rural slowdown, you cannot say it is an urban slowdown or a mid-market or a mass market slowdown. There are patches of weakness everywhere. And the correlations the market tends to talk about also are not evident. For example, the state with the worst auto sales today, which is Maharashtra, is the state with the best loan growth. So this assumption that, you know, it's the liquidity crunch that has caused this slowdown is certainly not valid. And therefore, our argument in that note was that this consumption weakness is actually very idiosyncratic. Okay, there are very bottom-up reasons. There might be sector-driven drivers that are causing slowdowns, and therefore investors should not be worried about a macro weakness, etc., but focus on bottom-up, focus on what's happening to every company, and track every company bottom-up if they have to catch the turnaround. Okay, because clearly there is no clear answer to why this has fallen off a cliff, and you might miss the move up if you start looking at only the macro and top-down.